Sid returned to WCW in 1993, but his second run would be defined by the most notorious incident of his entire career. The event took place in October 1993 during a company tour of Germany and nearly ended in tragedy for everyone involved. The incident began at a hotel bar where Sid got into a heated argument with fellow wrestler Arn Anderson. The dispute centered around a perceived insult to Ric Flair, who was Anderson's close friend and traveling companion. What started as words quickly escalated into something much more dangerous. The confrontation moved from the bar to the hotel hallway. According to witnesses, Sid showed up at Anderson's hotel room door and struck him over the head with a chair leg when Anderson answered. This brutal attack sent Anderson stumbling backward into his room, but the violence was just beginning. The two men spilled back into the hallway for what can only be described as a vicious, bloody brawl, unlike anything seen in professional wrestling. What made this fight particularly horrifying was that both men began using scissors as weapons against each other. The scene that unfolded was described by witnesses as something out of a horror movie. Both wrestlers suffered serious stab wounds to the neck, chest, and legs as they fought with the makeshift weapons. Blood covered the hallway as they continued to battle despite their injuries. People who saw the aftermath said they were amazed that neither man died from their wounds. The violence was so extreme and the injuries so severe that it easily could have resulted in a fatality. Hotel staff and other wrestlers who witnessed the scene were traumatized by what they saw. The fallout was immediate and devastating for Sid's career. WCW management was horrified by the incident and the negative publicity it generated. They fired him immediately, just 2 weeks before he was scheduled to defeat Vader for the WCW World Heavyweight Championship at their biggest show of the year, Starrcade. This termination cost Sid what would have been his first major world championship victory. More importantly, it cemented his reputation for backstage volatility and unprofessional behavior. The scissor fight became the defining incident that promoters and critics would point to whenever questions arose about Sid's character. The incident also revealed something troubling about Sid's personality. His willingness to use weapons in a real fight showed a dangerous lack of judgment and self-control. This wasn't just a wrestling angle or storyline violence. It was real rage that nearly resulted in serious injury or death. Despite this massive controversy and the damage to his reputation, Sid's star power remained undeniable. Promoters continued to call because they knew he could draw money and generate fan interest like few others could. His physical presence and natural charisma were simply too valuable to ignore completely. In 1995, Vince McMahon brought him back to WWF as Sycho Sid, despite knowing about the scissor fight and all the previous problems. Initially positioned as a monster heel and bodyguard for Shawn Michaels, something unexpected happened that showed Sid's unique appeal. Fans began cheering for him despite his villainous role. He became what observers described as a loose cannon badass who performed heel things much to the fans' delight. His intensity and authentic unpredictability made him impossible to boo for audiences who crave something real. He was so naturally popular that traditional villain roles couldn't contain his appeal. Crowds loved his unhinged energy and believed he was genuinely capable of anything. This organic fan reaction made him a precursor to the anti-hero characters who would define the next era of wrestling, particularly Stone Cold Steve Austin. The peak of this phenomenon occurred at Survivor Series 1996 in Madison Square Garden, wrestling's most famous venue. When Sid challenged Shawn Michaels for the WWF Championship, something remarkable happened that showed his transcendent appeal. The sophisticated New York crowd, known for being the most discerning wrestling audience in the world, vehemently cheered for the supposed villain, Sid, and loudly booed the supposed hero, Michaels. This reaction went completely against the planned storyline and showed Sid's rare ability to connect with audiences regardless of his assigned role. The moment demonstrated that fans were drawn to authenticity over manufactured characters. Sid's genuine intensity and unpredictability felt more real than the polished performances of technical wrestlers who followed scripts perfectly. But his reputation for unreliability continued to grow throughout this period. Critics and wrestling journalists constantly point. The Tragedy of Sycho Sid, YouTube script. The Tragedy of Sycho Sid is a story that will shock you. Here was a man who had everything, size, charisma, and star power that few wrestlers ever possessed. He headlined WrestleMania twice. He held world championships in both WWE and WCW. Yet today, he's remembered more for destroying his own career than building it. Sidney Udy died in August 2024 at just 63 years old. Cancer took him after a long battle. But the real tragedy happened decades earlier. Through reckless choices, backstage violence, and a pattern of walking out on commitments, Sid threw away what should have been a Hall of Fame legacy. How does a man with such incredible gifts end up excluded from wrestling's most prestigious honor? How does someone who crowds cheered for over established stars like Hulk Hogan and Shawn Michaels become known mainly for failure? The answer lies in a career defined by self-destruction. Sid's story begins in West Memphis, Arkansas. Born with what observers called incredible genetics, he first tried football with the Memphis Showboats of the United States Football League. His physical gifts were undeniable. Standing over 6 feet tall with an imposing frame, he looked like he was built for greatness. But wrestling called to him after a chance meeting with Randy Savage and his brother Lanny Poffo. They provided his crucial entry point into the business. Trainer Tojo Yamamoto took him under his wing in the early days. His early days in Memphis saw him wrestle as Lord Humongous, wearing a hockey mask that made him look terrifying. The character worked because Sid's natural intensity shone through even behind the mask. He moved to New Japan Pro Wrestling as Vicious Warrior, gaining international experience. Then came his arrival in WCW as Sid Vicious in 1989. Management saw him as a blue-chip prospect right away. His size and look were exactly what they wanted in that era. Wrestling was still about larger-than-life characters, and Sid fit perfectly. WCW paired him with Dan Spivey to form the Skyscrapers. The team lived up to their name with both men towering over most opponents. Later, he teamed with Mean Mark Callis, who would go on to become The Undertaker in WWE. Their partnerships gave Sid credibility and main event experience. The team feuded with legendary duos like Road Warriors and Steiner Brothers. These matches helped establish Sid's powerbomb as a devastating finishing move. He delivered it with such force that it looked genuinely dangerous every time. But warning signs appeared early that should have been red flags for his future. During a War Games match, Sid powerbombed Brian Pillman with what he later admitted was ill intent. The move was delivered with extra force because of a personal grudge. Pillman suffered a serious neck injury and had to be hospitalized. Sid later revealed he was angry that Pillman had been running his mouth backstage. This showed a dangerous pattern of letting personal feelings affect his professional work. It wasn't about the storyline or the match. It was about revenge. The softball controversy started during this period too. After suffering a punctured lung injury, WCW put Sid on a recovery and weight gain program. The company wanted him healthy and bigger for his return, but he was spotted playing in a softball league during his mandated rest time. Management was furious when they found out. Sid claimed he was staying active while putting on the required weight, but company officials saw it as proof that his personal hobbies took priority over wrestling commitments. This created a lasting narrative that would follow him throughout his career. Sid's star continued to rise when he joined the Four Horsemen as Ric Flair's muscle. This role gave him main event exposure and established a blueprint that would be used for decades. Future wrestlers like Batista and Evolution would follow the same template of being the enforcer for a cerebral leader. The Horsemen affiliation led to his challenge against Sting for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship at Halloween Havoc 1990. The match drew well at the box office, proving Sid could be a main event draw. But the actual match quality was poor, raising questions about his in-ring abilities. Still, Sid was climbing toward the top of the wrestling world. In 1991, Sid made the jump to WWF as Sid Justice. This move elevated him to the global stage in ways WCW never could. Vince McMahon positioned him as a heroic babyface character, specifically designed to challenge and eventually replace Hulk Hogan as the company's top star. The buildup was masterful. Sid was presented as a larger-than-life superhero figure who could match Hogan's size and charisma. Fans were intrigued by this new giant who seemed different from previous Hogan challengers. He had an intensity and unpredictability that made him compelling to watch. This storyline led to the Royal Rumble 1992, a match that would become one of the most significant moments in wrestling history. The event was held to crown a new WWF champion after Hulk Hogan lost the title due to controversy. 30 men would enter the ring, and the last one standing would become champion. During the climactic moments of the match, Sid eliminated Hulk Hogan in what was supposed to be a heel turn. The crowd in Albany, New York was supposed to boo Sid viciously and feel tremendous sympathy for the fallen hero Hogan. Instead, something magical and unexpected happened. The fans erupted in massive cheers when Sid tossed Hogan over the top rope. They were clearly ready for someone new to take Hogan's spot. The reaction got even stronger when Hogan, eliminated and standing on the floor, reached under the ropes to grab Sid's arm. This interference helped Ric Flair eliminate Sid and win the championship. Rather than cheer Hogan's heroic attempt to stay involved, the crowd booed him mercilessly. They saw through the manipulation and didn't want the old guard holding back the new generation. It was a spontaneous and powerful audience reaction that showed the winds of change were blowing in professional wrestling, but WWE wasn't ready for that change. The company had invested too much in Hogan as their franchise player to let fan reaction dictate their direction. In an act of deliberate historical revisionism that would define their relationship with Sid forever, they later edited the home video release of the event. WWE changed the audio track to make it appear that fans were booing Sid instead of cheering him. They manufactured fake crowd noise to support their preferred narrative. This decision to literally rewrite history shows how determined they were to minimize Sid's organic popularity. This became a pattern that would haunt Sid's legacy. WWE consistently minimized his contributions to their success because he wasn't seen as completely loyal to their corporate vision. They preferred wrestlers who were company men over those who maintained independence. Sid's most infamous moment came during a backstage promo where he declared, "I am the master and ruler of the world." The segment became legendary for all the wrong reasons. His delivery was erratic, stumbling over words and appearing to lose his train of thought mid-sentence. Wrestling critics and fans mocked the promo for years afterward. It became a symbol of everything wrong with Sid according to his detractors. But they missed the point entirely. Despite the verbal mistakes and awkward delivery, the raw intensity was so palpable that fans hung on every word. Sid's charisma transcended traditional work rate metrics that wrestling purists obsessed over. He sold the believability of his character through sheer presence and unhinged energy. Fans genuinely believed he was a dangerous, unpredictable individual who could snap at any moment. His WWF run came to an abrupt and controversial end. Just before his scheduled WrestleMania 8 main event against Hulk Hogan, Sid failed a company drug test. This was during an era when WWE was facing scrutiny over steroid use in professional wrestling. Despite the failed test, WWE allowed him to work the WrestleMania show because they had already sold tickets and advertised the match. But they informed him that he would serve a suspension immediately after completing a scheduled European tour following the event. Rather than accept the punishment and return later, Sid made the decision to leave the company entirely. This choice would be held against him for decades to come. WWE viewed it as proof that he wasn't committed to the business when things got difficult. Sid's most notorious incident happened in October 1993 during a WCW tour of Germany. At a hotel bar, he got into an argument with Arn Anderson over a perceived insult to Ric Flair, Anderson's close friend. The fight escalated when Sid hit Anderson over the head with a chair leg at his hotel room door. The two spilled into the hallway for a vicious, bloody brawl. Both men used scissors as weapons. They suffered stab wounds to the neck, chest, and legs. Witnesses said they were lucky no one died. The fallout was immediate and severe. WCW fired Sid just 2 weeks before he was scheduled to win the World Championship at Starrcade. His reputation for backstage volatility was now cemented with this horrific incident. Despite his problems, Sid's star power meant promoters kept calling. In 1995, he returned to WWF as Sycho Sid. Initially positioned as a heel bodyguard for Shawn Michaels, something unexpected happened. Fans loved him. He became what observers called a loose cannon badass, who did heel things much to the fans' delight. He was so popular that traditional villain roles couldn't contain him. This foreshadowed the rise of anti-hero characters like Stone Cold Steve Austin. The peak came at Survivor Series 1996 in Madison Square Garden. When Sid challenged Shawn Michaels for the WWF Championship, the sophisticated New York crowd vehemently cheered for the supposed villain Sid and booed the supposed hero Michaels. It showed Sid's rare ability to transcend planned storylines. but his reputation for walking out continued to grow. Critics pointed to multiple instances where he abandoned commitments. Sid pushed back, claiming the main incidents involved his injury recovery and a contract dispute. But the damage was done. Sid's final major run came in WCW starting in 1999. Rebranded as the Millennium Man, he won the World Championship twice by defeating Kevin Nash. Success seemed within reach again. Then came January 14, 2001. At WCW Sin pay-per-view, Sid was in a four-way main event for the World Championship. Match agent Johnny Ace called for Sid to perform a big boot from the top rope. It was described by fans as a stupid spot for someone with no aerial experience. Sid slipped off the ropes and landed heavily on his left leg. His tibia and fibula bones snapped and broke through his skin in a double compound fracture. The injury was so graphic that many TV stations refused to replay the footage. WCW's handling was a disaster. The referee seemed confused about the severity. The match continued as Sid writhed in pain on the canvas. The athletic trainer didn't attend to him until after the match ended. There was no proper injury protocol. The company's callousness showed the next night on Monday Nitro. They replayed the graphic footage from multiple angles, described as distasteful and exploitative. This incident ended Sid's full-time career and required a 17-inch metal rod in his leg. Sid made sporadic returns through 2017, but was never the same. His reputation was sealed. He was remembered as unreliable, reckless, and more known for controversy than triumph. Despite headlining WrestleMania twice and holding multiple world championships, WWE never inducted him into their Hall of Fame. The case against him rested on documented walkouts, lack of commitment, and his drug test failure. But many peers recognized his impact. Booker T said that without Sid, he and his brother wouldn't have made it to WCW. He called Sid's influence undeniable and credited him with paving the way for others. Shawn Michaels acknowledged that Sid was crucial to creating his Heartbreak Kid persona. He stated that Sid's legacy and influence will inspire our business for generations to come. The wrestling community offered tributes when Sid died in August 2024 from stage 4 lymphoma. But by then, it was too late to repair his damaged legacy. Sid had everything needed for immortality: a $1 million look and scary, intense presence. Charisma that made crowds believe despite limited technical skills. He transcended planned storylines and connected with audiences in ways few ever could. His promos might have been nonsensical, but his intensity made fans hang on every word. He was described as someone who did more with less and stayed popular whether positioned as hero or villain. But through his own choices, he destroyed what should have been a Hall of Fame career: the scissor fight with Arn Anderson, multiple walkouts and contract disputes, the drug test failure, a pattern of putting personal interests above professional commitments. WWE's exclusion of him isn't an oversight. It's deliberate. They've shown a pattern of minimizing performers who weren't seen as completely dedicated to the company vision. The edited Royal Rumble audio proves they'll rewrite history to control narratives. In the end, the tragedy of Sycho Sid isn't just how he died fighting cancer at 63. It's how a man with such incredible gifts chose to throw away wrestling immortality. He had the size, the look, the charisma, and the fan connection. But he let backstage politics, personal grudges, and questionable decisions overshadow his achievements. Sid was truly the master and ruler of his own world. Unfortunately, he ruled over a kingdom of wasted potential. What do you think? Despite everything, does Sid still deserve a Hall of Fame spot? Let me know in the comments below.